Welcome to our channel. Today, we're diving into a fascinating topic, the scientific evidences of Jesus' resurrection. Now, I know what you're thinking. Science and religion, don't they usually occupy opposite ends of the intellectual spectrum? And you wouldn't be wrong to think so. But the resurrection of Jesus Christ presents a curious case, one where faith and reason, belief and evidence intertwine in a most intriguing manner. For centuries, the resurrection of Jesus has been a cornerstone of Christian faith, a beacon of hope, and a testament to the divine. But is it merely a matter of faith, or could there be tangible, even scientific evidence to support this extraordinary claim? Over the next few minutes, we'll embark on a journey, a quest for truth as we examine 7 compelling pieces of evidence that suggest Jesus Christ really did rise from the dead. Fasten your seatbelts and prepare to delve into the heart of this age-old mystery. The answers, as we shall see, might surprise you. Our journey begins at the very site where it all began, the tomb where Jesus was laid to rest. The Gospel accounts tell us that on the 3rd day after his crucifixion, the tomb was found empty. This was not a hidden, easily forgotten grave, but a well-known, easily identifiable location. Surely, if the body had still been there, the authorities would have produced it, quelling any rumors of a resurrection. All 4 Gospels mention Roman guards stationed at the tomb to prevent theft. The Gospel of John tells us that Peter found the linen cloths lying there, but the face cloth was neatly folded. This seemingly insignificant detail speaks volumes. The empty tomb, while not definitive proof, presents a compelling piece of the puzzle. In a world dominated by men, where the testimony of women often held little weight, it is striking that the first witnesses to the resurrection were women. All 4 Gospels agree that it was a group of women who first discovered the empty tomb and encountered the risen Christ. In the patriarchal society of first-century Palestine, the testimony of women was considered unreliable. If one were to fabricate a story about a resurrection, choosing women as the primary witnesses would be a poor strategy. And yet, that's precisely what the Gospel writers did. They embraced this detail, suggesting they were more concerned with recording the truth. These women, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and others, were not expecting a resurrection. They went to the tomb to anoint Jesus' body, a final act of love and devotion. Imagine their shock, their disbelief, then their overwhelming joy at finding the tomb empty and encountering their risen Lord. Their testimony, initially met with skepticism, became a cornerstone of the Christian faith. These women, once relegated to the shadows, became the first heralds of the resurrection. The Gospels paint a vivid picture of the apostles before the resurrection, a group of men riddled with fear and doubt. After all, they had just witnessed the brutal crucifixion of their leader, the one they believed to be the Messiah. Fearful for their own lives, they scattered, hiding in locked rooms, their hopes seemingly dashed against the rocks of despair. And then, something extraordinary happened. The same men who cowered in fear were suddenly transformed into bold preachers, proclaiming the resurrection with unwavering conviction. What could account for such a dramatic shift? What could inspire such courage in the face of persecution and death? The answer, according to the apostles themselves, was the resurrection. They claimed to have seen Jesus alive, not as a ghost or a spirit, but as a living, breathing person, bearing the marks of his crucifixion, yet radiating with life and power. This was no mere change of heart, it was a complete transformation. Peter, who had denied Jesus 3 times, became a pillar of the early church, boldly proclaiming the resurrection even before the Sanhedrin. The apostles, once hesitant and fearful, were now willing to face imprisonment, torture, and even death for their belief in the risen Christ. This dramatic shift in the apostles' demeanor is difficult to explain away. Something profound must have happened to instill such unwavering faith and courage in these once ordinary men. Chapter 4: A Brother's Conversion, James and the Early Church. The transformation of James, the brother of Jesus, offers another compelling piece of evidence for the resurrection. According to the Gospels, James was initially skeptical of Jesus' claims. He did not believe that his own brother was the Son of God, even questioning his sanity at one point. However, something remarkable happened after the resurrection. James underwent a complete transformation, becoming a devout follower of Jesus and a leader in the early church. He went from skeptic to believer, from doubter to pillar of faith. What could account for such a drastic change? The most plausible explanation, according to historians and theologians alike, is that James encountered the risen Christ himself. This encounter, whatever form it may have taken, had a profound impact on James, turning him from a skeptic into a fervent believer. James's transformation is not an isolated incident. The early church experienced explosive growth in the years following the resurrection. Thousands of people, many of whom had personally known Jesus or witnessed his crucifixion, embraced the Christian faith, willing to face persecution and death for their belief in the risen Christ. This rapid spread of Christianity, despite facing intense opposition and persecution, is difficult to explain without acknowledging the profound impact of the resurrection on the lives of its early adherents. The resurrection of Jesus was not a private affair witnessed by a select few. The Gospels and the Apostle Paul's writings speak of multiple appearances to large crowds, sometimes numbering in the hundreds. One notable instance is recounted in 1 Corinthians 15 verse 6, where Paul states that Jesus appeared to more than 500 brethren at once, many of whom were still alive at the time of his writing. These mass appearances hold particular significance because they significantly weaken the argument of hallucinations. While it's possible for an individual to experience a vision or hallucination, it's highly improbable that a large group of people, especially a group with diverse backgrounds and beliefs, would all share the same hallucination simultaneously. These were not fleeting glimpses either. The Gospels describe Jesus spending extended periods with his followers, eating with them, talking with them, and even inviting them to touch his wounds. These interactions were far too vivid, too detailed, too real to be dismissed as mere figments of their imagination. The sheer number and consistency of these eyewitness accounts, coupled with the fact that many of these witnesses were still alive at the time the Gospels were written and could have refuted the claims if they were false, lends significant credence to the reality of the resurrection. Perhaps one of the most compelling pieces of evidence for the resurrection comes from a man who initially dedicated his life to persecuting early Christians, Saul of Tarsus, later known as the Apostle Paul. Paul, a devout Jew and a staunch defender of the Jewish law, considered the Christian claim of a resurrected Messiah blasphemous. He actively hunted down Christians, imprisoning them and even consenting to their deaths. And then something extraordinary happened. On the road to Damascus, Paul had a blinding encounter with the risen Christ. This wasn't a fleeting vision or a whisper in the wind, but a life-altering experience that shook him to his core. The persecutor became the persecuted, the hunter the hunted. Paul's conversion is remarkable for several reasons. Firstly, he was a learned man, a Pharisee well-versed in Jewish law and tradition. He was not prone to flights of fancy or easily swayed by emotional appeals. Yet this staunch opponent of Christianity became its most ardent advocate, attributing his dramatic transformation to his encounter with the risen Christ. Secondly, Paul's conversion came at great personal cost. He faced imprisonment, beatings, shipwrecks, and ultimately martyrdom for his unwavering belief in the resurrection. It's difficult to imagine someone enduring such hardships, even choosing death, for a lie they knew to be false. From the very beginning, Christians faced relentless persecution for their faith. They were thrown to lions, burned at the stake, and subjected to unimaginable tortures, all because they refused to renounce their belief in the resurrected Christ. Why would anyone willingly endure such suffering, even embrace death, for a lie? The answer, quite simply, is that they didn't believe it was a lie. The early Christians, many of whom had personally known Jesus or witnessed his crucifixion, were utterly convinced of the truth of his resurrection. They had seen the empty tomb, encountered the risen Christ, and experienced his transformative power in their own lives. Their willingness to die for their faith is a powerful testament to the reality of the resurrection. People might die for a lie they genuinely believe to be true, but no one dies for a lie they know to be false. The early Christians were not delusional fanatics. They were ordinary men and women who had encountered the extraordinary, and their lives and deaths would never be the same. Their unwavering faith, even in the face of death, speaks volumes about the profound impact the resurrection had on their lives. It was this belief, this unshakable conviction, that fueled the rapid spread of Christianity, transforming it from a small sect into a global faith. Thank you for watching. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. Let us know in the comments what you think about these evidences of Jesus' resurrection.